you guys very much for coming. It's been 24 hours since I became governor, and I'm pleased to announce that today that we have completed a structurally balanced budget, something that we haven't seen in Maryland for a decade. Before I get into the details of our budget, I want to extend my sincere gratitude to Senator Bobby Neal and my entire budget team. Senator, thank you for your leadership. He deserves a round of applause. This team rolled up their sleeves and worked very hard over the past 8 or 9 weeks, making the tough choices to get our state budget under control. I also want to thank Secretary Eloise Foster, who is a consummate professional, and all of her team. They really worked hard and provided tremendous assistance to us in the transition. And finally, I want to acknowledge the contributions from our new Secretary of DBM, David Brinkley, who will be the driving force behind Maryland's fiscal stability for the long term. Thank you, guys. Secretary. I want to begin by being very clear about what my budget accomplishes. First, by getting spending under control, we have created a structurally balanced budget without gimmicks or sleight of hand, something that has not been accomplished for 10 years. Second, as introduced, our budget puts Maryland on sound financial footing without raising taxes or fees and without eliminating agencies or departments or services, without laying off a single state employee, and without any furloughs whatsoever. Finally, I'm introducing record spending in K through 12 education and growth in higher education spending as well. Maryland's FY 2016 budget establishes balance without slashing agencies, laying off workers, and while fully funding education and all of our other essential priorities. Let me tell you how we got here. Since the first day of my campaign, our goal has always been simple: to tear down the barriers to economic growth and to build a new foundation to restore Maryland's economy. I have consistently said that each action I will take will be put to a very simple test. Does this make it easier for families and businesses to stay and prosper in Maryland? And will this action make more families and businesses want to come to Maryland and grow our economy? I'm proud to say that this budget that I'm introducing today meets both of those criteria. Our budget gets spending under control and establishes a realistic trajectory for spending in the future. When we began the process, we were handed a baseline budget of $17 billion with projected revenue of $16.3 billion. The previous administration was on track to spend $700 million that we did not have. I know this is a completely foreign concept here in Annapolis, but in FY 2016, my budget expends $16.4 billion on revenues of $16.4 billion. And starting today, we will put an end to the budgetary gimmickry and shell games that have put our state on a path to financial peril. In FY 2016, we will deliver real structural balance, not just for 1 year, but for the long term as well. The theme of this budget is balance today, balance tomorrow, and that's exactly what we will deliver. Our budget formula will come as no surprise to anyone who manages a family's finances. We will stop spending more than we take in. We will stop using the maxed out credit cards, stop raiding the kids' piggy bank, and stop dipping into the retirement account. Excluding appropriation to the reserve fund, pay-go capital, and debt service, the FY 16 budget as introduced keeps general fund spending growth to 0.5%. That is comfortably below the projected 3.5% growth in revenues. I believe that the leadership in the General Assembly is as committed as I am to a structurally balanced budget. In fact, the General Assembly's Spending Affordability Committee recommended cuts in the state's structural deficit from around $700 million to $350 million. I'm very proud to say that we will eliminate the structural deficit today, years ahead of the committee's target. And we have achieved this despite significant obstacles. 81% of all the money that Maryland spends is mandated and required and programmed. The non-mandated portion of the budget that we have any control over is only 19%. To close a gap without any control over 4/5 of what we spend, without cutting jobs or raising taxes, was an extraordinary challenge. This issue of mandates will need to be addressed long term, but that's not what we're focused on here today. Over the last 8 years, Maryland's families and small businesses were tightening their belts, while state government was doing just the opposite, increasing spending by nearly $10 billion. That's not right, it's not fair, and it ends today. Our budget includes a 2% reduction in funding to state agencies to help break the ongoing cycle of excessive spending and borrowing, a cycle only made possible through tax hikes to Maryland's struggling families and small businesses. Spending too much, borrowing too much, and overtaxing Maryland families and businesses were the essence of my campaign. My FY 2016 budget fixes the first two problems and puts us in a great position to tackle the third. Allow me to highlight where the last several years of borrowing and overspending have left us. In 2008, pension and debt service was 6.2% of the general fund. It's high, but somewhat manageable of a figure. By 2019, debt service and pension costs are projected to account for 10.6% of the total budget. This year, payments on state debt will grow by 96%. In FY 2016, general fund contributions to debt service will come close to what we spend on school construction. I'll repeat that. We are now paying almost as much on our credit card debt as we pay to build new schools. In 2 years' time, general fund payments on the state's public debt will reach $500 million per year. By comparison, in 2013, Maryland's general fund debt service cost was zero. The Maryland State Retirement and Pension System has a currently funded status at 69%. To put a dollar figure on that, we face $18.7 billion in unfunded pension liabilities. We must address this growing shortfall to keep our promises to employees and retirees. Ignoring or trying to hide our debt, pension, and other obligations will eventually jeopardize our ability to fund education, transportation, environmental programs, and the support that the state provides to the vulnerable and those most in need. Our budget slows overall spending growth, but we continue to fund important projects and programs at appropriate levels, including education. With $45.3 million in new investment for a total of $6.1 billion, we are funding our priorities, K through 12 education, at the highest rate in state history. We are also spending over $290 million to fully fund school construction and are committing to $1.2 billion for the University System of Maryland, which is a 1.3% increase. Our budget is just the first step. This is only day one. We will have much more to do in the days and months and years to come. We're going to redirect our state's fiscal course. Programs must be examined, new debt must be managed prudently to preserve our AAA bond rating. Agencies must be consolidated. In short, state government must become efficient and cost efficient. It must practice fiscal integrity. More importantly, we must put our economy back on track, attract new businesses and new jobs to generate more revenue and protect the long-term stability of our budget. Maryland is too special of a place and has too many natural advantages to be experiencing this kind of continued economic decline as the rest of the nation is moving forward. It is our solemn duty to assure a brighter future for the people we represent and the state that we all love. Our budget today is just our first step among many to ensure that outcome. Thank you very much. I have time for just a few questions, and then I'm going to turn the floor over to our budget team, who's going to go through lots more detail with you until your eyes start to glaze over. Oh, there you go. Sorry, who was first?
Does this budget afford a tax cut, and where and how?
We will be talking about that at a later date. This is about spending today. But as I said at least a couple thousand times, we're going to get spending under control, and then we're going to try to roll back as many of the 40 tax increases as we possibly can, and that we will be proposing tax cuts in this session in the next few weeks. Let's one at a time, guys. Impact on their lives. Hopefully they'll feel that the state is getting back on track, that we're finally getting our fiscal house in order. Marylanders didn't feel very good about what we've been doing. The status quo has not been acceptable. That's why an overwhelming majority of Marylanders in 20 out of 23 counties elected me as governor to chart a new course. And we're going to take the actions that they want us to take.
On the subject of tax cuts, has that been abandoned for your first year of
No, I just finished. You didn't answer the last question. I just said we're going to propose tax cuts in the next couple of weeks.
Will those tax cuts take effect within this budget?
Yes. Yes, we're going to propose tax cuts immediately.
Governor Hogan, regarding that purple line, what are you going to do about it?
The budget currently leaves funding in there for the purple and red line, but those are decisions that have not been finalized. So there's some money in the budget. I'll let these guys get into the details. We want to do a thorough review of both projects before making any final decisions.
Governor, excuse me, thank you. May I ask
Yeah,
a question?
sure.
I wanted to know about, you talked about the funding for education. What about in Prince George's and Montgomery County? They're very dependent on GCEI, that geographic index. What happens in this plan?
Yeah. Yeah, we're going to get into all those details with the presentation in a minute. They're going to walk through we have record funding for education. We do make some adjustments to GCEI, not nearly as drastic as most people were predicting, but you're going to hear about that in just a little while.
Last question. Governor, you pulled two environmental regulations yesterday regarding clean air and the phosphorus management tool. Have you made a decision on former Governor O'Malley's pending fracking rules?
We just basically pulled all the regulations that were supposed to be published on Friday. We didn't like the fact that the governor was trying to push these things through at the last minute. And we're going to make sure that our new budget, our new team throughout government reviews every one of these regulations to make sure which direction we should head. Thank you all. At this point, that's the last question for me. I'm going to run. I'm going to turn it over. You guys are going to get every detail. You're going to get every single question answered. We're going to give you the whole dog and pony show. So thank you all very much. Thanks for being here.